Animal Crossing New Horizons has been out for over 3 months now. It's been nothing short of a massive success for Nintendo. It's already the 6th most sold game for the console, and that's definitely for good reason. If you're here, chances are you've sunk an insane amount of hours into the game like I have, so I don't need to explain why it has such wide appeal. Above the many reasons people are drawn to this game, I think the number one factor is just how relaxing this game is. There aren't all too many moments in Animal Crossing that make you hate life, both due to how the game is structured and just how well designed it is to keep you coming back each and every day for new tasks. But of course, I have a few key issues with the game. There wouldn't be a video today if I didn't have a few significant issues that still remain and could easily be solved in a very quick update. I'll try to avoid nitpicking, but today, let's brainstorm a few key issues that still plague Animal Crossing New Horizons and identify some fun and creative ways to solve them to make this game even better. Once again, I want to mention that today's video is sponsored by the Mentors and Moguls podcast. Heather Stone is an entrepreneur, pioneer, and founder of Mentors and Moguls. With over 28 years of experience as an entrepreneur in the fields of asset management, tech, and finance, she's no stranger to achieving goals and forging a path to success. If you're interested in learning about business and practical tools you can apply in your own life, check out the Mentors and Moguls podcasts on Apple and other podcast platforms. So for more information, you should absolutely check out the 2 links in the description below. So when it comes down to it, a lot of the changes that Animal Crossing really needs are small ones that would affect gameplay on a very subtle level, but definitely aren't game breakers by any means. One key feature I have in mind has to do with items and tools. Items are a key part of the Animal Crossing experience, both in the early part of the game, when you're getting villagers to move in, and again when you unlock terraforming and have to deploy items to destroy rocks, transplant trees, and shoot down those countless balloons from the sky. No matter how far you are into the game, your items can be victim to breakage, popping out of existence at the most inopportune times, prompting you to stop what you're doing, get to the nearest crafting bench, and build a new one from scratch. I'm not suggesting that items should be invincible by any means, but I always dread having tools break or running out of stackable items like fish bait, simply because the crafting system is mind-bogglingly tedious to get through. Sometimes I hate how I get discouraged from going chain fishing just because I can only create bait one at a time. So I have to butt mash A over and over again just to reopen the crafting window. This also goes for items with different durability tiers like the shovels, axes, and fishing rods. I don't get why if I already have the materials for the highest tier one, I have to make a flimsy one, and then go through the motions again just to use that flimsy one as a material for the new one. I think the game should recognize that I have enough materials to make the best one off the bat. This whole menu slog really gets repetitive, and it discourages me from making the tools I need because the last thing I want to do in the middle of a terraforming project or fishing night is swipe through the same menu over and over again. And on the topic of tools, another pet peeve I have is how tools don't have a stamina bar. If they had that to begin with, like, most video games, chances are I wouldn't have to stop what I'm doing just because my shovel decides to explode unwarranted, and I'd be able to plan ahead by crafting a new shovel as a backup. The thing I just mentioned seemed like the most reasonable request, but one final thing I have on my tools and items wish list is for a separate storage slot for tools, separate from your main inventory. The 4 rows are definitely enough for items in my opinion, but it seems a bit silly that the full arsenal takes up almost a third of your space. Heck, we already have tool wheels as a pop-up menu, so I don't know why we can't just have you designate anything that's in the tool wheel to count as its own thing, separate from your main pocket inventory. The second change that I'm going to suggest today has to do with terraforming of the island. Just like my points about item crafting, my suggestions here are mainly aimed at the pace of play, and how certain game design aspects just seem so sluggish and discourage the player from doing something. What I mean by that is just how terrible it is to look at a sizable portion of your land that you want to pave as a surface, and the existential dread it fills you knowing that it'll take an ungodly amount of time. Like, when you're paving tile by tile, it gets really tiring to see the same animation over and over again. To make this better, I would suggest either having a top-down menu with lengths and widths that you could select by dragging across the screen to match the area that you could fill in. I also think that being able to put down paths as a 2x2 tile instead of one at a time might be good, because it would cut down on how long it would take to replace sections of paths that you've laid down and since regretted. Also, I think cliffs and water should be plannable in the same way, just because I often feel discouraged from reshaping natural rivers or raised areas, because of how long it's going to take me to move stuff one by one. Of course, this slow grind is part of Animal Crossing, so I actually don't really expect this to ever be fixed, since optimizing projects to be done this fast almost seems against the spirit of the franchise. But if any truly unnecessary time should be cut down on in this game, it should definitely be this. My next point has to do with island customization. For the first time in the franchise, we were awarded true customization, and a bunch of furniture was open for custom patterns and colors, with a handy app on the Nook phone for pre-made patterns and even open slots for the player to customize to their heart's content. So my question is, why does customization feel so limited? I'm not talking in terms of what we can and can't customize, but instead, the fact that there are just so few slots for custom patterns to begin with. Granted, there's not a terrible amount, but it does suck that there's no way to get more, and once you lay down a design, it's only there for as long as you keep the pattern in the Nook phone. So if I want to make a single white line to serve as the outline for a basketball court, I literally have to keep that white line in the app until the heat death of the universe, or the design on the ground is just going to disappear forever. So the fact that we can't purchase more in exchange for bells or Nook miles is astounding to me, for a game that seems to encourage customization so much. Also, one last thing on the topic of customization, it really bugs me how the town plaza is always lined with brick tiles, with no way to change that, even if that doesn't match the tiles in the rest of my town. I could definitely imagine a really small update where we'd be able to talk to Tom Nook at the infrastructure counter and exchange a small sum of bells to change the town's plaza flooring to match your town's aesthetic. So to me, there are a few key things that prevent the game from being as wonderfully customizable as it possibly could be. My final point has to do with Isabelle, the resident dog-in-chief. As someone who mains her in Smash Ultimate and found her to be a great addition in New Leaf, it pains me to say that I find her appearances to be my least enjoyable part of New Horizons. Here, I'm actually talking about her role as the announcement person when you boot up the game every day. 9 times out of 10, she has absolutely nothing of value to say and her dialogue just repeats. If she's here to give news after all, it would be great if we could announce the arrival of island visitors for the day like Celeste, Flick, and Sahara. I know that I can just walk around my island as I play the game and find them myself, so this somewhat boils down to laziness. But I legitimately think that there are times that they only populate a section of my island that I'm not working on or hanging out at on that day, so I miss them entirely. Her announcing their arrival would be great, especially if it was for a visitor like Red, because completing the arts section in the museum is hard enough. Along with visitor announcements, I also think Isabelle could announce a small weather forecast every day, with the chance of it being somewhat inaccurate to keep an element of surprise. These changes would make her announcements so much more useful, and it would revitalize her role in the franchise. So there you have 4 key quality of life changes that I could definitely envision Animal Crossing adopting. I know they're rolling out a series of updates that focus on gameplay additions, so I definitely know they have the potential and willpower to make changes to pre-existing things that don't function as smoothly as they possibly could. Of course, I didn't even touch on key stuff like the online system, which is deserving of a video of its own in the future. But as far as these 4 changes go, we'll just have to wait and see what Nintendo is planning on. Thank you once again to Mentors and Moguls for sponsoring this video. I hope you all have enjoyed the recent shorter videos that I put out, and I'm really grateful that this channel has grown so much. I have more long-form, exciting content coming in July, starting next week with a brand new series focused on the Pokemon franchise. So I'll see you all then.